What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome into an all-new episode of the Pack a Day podcast presented by Habush, and Rottier. It's not a victory Friday. I know Black Friday was last week, but this feels like a little bit more of a Black Friday. Packers cannot come out with a win on Thursday Night Football against Detroit. A heavyweight fight, a really fun game that I wish was maybe officiated slightly better, a game where I wish Green Bay came out on the top at the end, but a really good beatdown brawl of a game that went to the wire. You kind of had a feeling whoever got the ball last was going to win. The team that got the ball last won. Thought Detroit was the better team on the day. I thought Green Bay did a great job of fighting back, getting back in it, having multiple opportunities to win it. It's one of those games that could swing in a million different directions. A couple calls go Green Bay's way, Green Bay wins. A couple calls go Detroit's way the other way. Maybe Detroit wins by 10 or more, right? Couple bigger plays by Green Bay, they probably win. Couple bigger plays by Detroit, it goes at man, this thing could have swung in a variety of different directions. I hope you guys had the opportunity to enjoy that game. I know there's no moral victories, and I don't even think that I'm trying to swing this in the moral victory category. They lost. Detroit was the better team. I love really good football, and that was really fun football. On Thursday Night Football, primetime game, there wasn't a ton at stake in that game. We kind of talked about it going in. Green Bay probably wasn't winning the division anyway, even undefeated with a victory against the Detroit and 4 wins after that. It's about a 1 in 3 chance. They needed some things to fall their way. It's now completely out of the equation. But yeah, there wasn't a ton on the line. Before the game, they were a 99% chance to make the playoffs. After the game, they're a 99% chance to make the playoffs. So they didn't lose anything drastic in this game. There's no huge swing in seeding or anything like that. You'd definitely like to have seen them get the win, no question about it. But that was a really fun, awesome football game. Like I said, I wish I would have had a few cleaner moments from an officiating standpoint, from a Packers standpoint. I really wish they could have came away with the win. But I hope you guys got to enjoy the football in that one. Those are two fantastic football teams going toe-to-toe, exchanging blow for blow. And Detroit was the better team that came out on top. Kudos to them for picking up that big win. Now, as I mentioned, today's show is presented by Habush, and Rottier. I'm so excited to be partnering with Habush. If you haven't had the opportunity to check out their website yet, make sure to do so at habush.com. Huge Packer fans. They know the team. They know it just like you and I. They know Wisconsin. They speak Wisconsin. They have office locations right next to Lambeau Field, right next to Camp Randall Stadium, 13 office locations in Wisconsin. Do me a favor. When you are in need of a reputable personal injury attorney, make sure you're going to Habush, and Rottier. They will work for you. All right. They're awesome people. I love working with them. I've enjoyed every single conversation, interaction that I've had the opportunity to spend with them. And I know you are as well. And when you call them, you're going to talk to a lawyer directly. There's no talking to 17 different customer service reps. You're going to call there and you're going to talk to a lawyer. I mean, how refreshing is that? Their number is easy, 800-2HABUSH or 800-242-2874. Again, you can visit their website at habush.com. Habush, and Rottier, national reputation, hometown service. Do me a favor, check them out when you get a chance. As I mentioned, Packers lose this one, 34-31. Let's get to our Luigi's Pizza player of the game on this one. It's a tough one, if we're being honest. Who comes to mind for you guys immediately when I say Luigi's Pizza player of the game? If you look at kind of like a box score standpoint, right? Jordan Love, 12 of 20, 206 yards, 1 touchdown, no pick, 4 carries, 23 yards. Not your usual like massive 3 or 4 touchdown game or anything. No 300 yards from Jordan Love, only 12 completions on the day. Missed a throw to Tucker Kraft in the end zone, had a couple plays early. I think he had 30 yards passing in the first half. So not your typical great Jordan Love day, right? Josh Jacobs, 18 carries, 66 yards, nothing to write home about. Christian Watson maybe had the best, box score day, 4 catches, 114 yards, but had that big fumble. So it's tough to give it to him. Keyshawn Nixon had the interception, had a pass breakup early in the game, but also gave up some big completions in key moments in this one. Rashawn Gary had the sack, but was pretty quiet the rest of the game. You could say Zane Anderson, right? He came in, I thought played pretty well, had that big third down stop late in the game. So I think him coming in and playing well was pretty impressive. I am going to go with Jordan Love as our Luigi's Pizza player of the game, but there wasn't really a very clear runaway obvious player for this one. And if you guys want to vote for somebody different in the comments, I'm open to suggestions on this one. But for this, we're going Luigi's Pizza player of the game. Jordan Love, 12 of 20, 206 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 carries, 23 yards. When the game was in the balance, Jordan, I thought, really came up huge. Had it not been for that pass interference call, the offensive pass interference call at the end, it's a potential game-winning touchdown drive, right? Now that may seem laughable because Detroit probably was going to go down the field and score a touchdown if they needed it anyway. But when Jordan Love was called upon, especially in that second half, he continued to deliver with drive after drive to get Green Bay back in the game, to give him a game-tying field goal at the end, almost a go-ahead touchdown at the end had it not been for that call. So I'll go with Jordan Love, but again, not your usual epic Jordan Love performance if we're talking about a player of the day type of performance, but still worth it. Speaking of worth it, make sure to check out Luigi's best frozen pizza in the world. Beyond love it. I'm disappointed I don't get a victory pizza today. I might get a sulking, I need something to cheer me up pizza today. And Luigi's is good for all of it. No matter what your pizza need is, they've got you covered. They've got the fresh dough. They got the ultra thin crust. Both of them beyond amazing. I can never choose also which one I like more. I think I'm going to do an ultra thin crust one today, but make sure to check out Luigi's Pizza at your favorite grocer. All right, let's get to the offensive performance in this one. This was the drive by drive for Green Bay's offense. 5 plays, 19 yards punt, 3 plays, 0 yards punt, 2 plays, 27 yards fumble. Let me just start right there. That's an unacceptable start to this game. And for all of the bashing of the defense late in the game and all of the, opportunities that they had, all of the frustration at the referees in certain moments, you can't come out in this game after having a 28-0 deficit to Minnesota, after having a 24-3 deficit against Detroit, knowing that you needed to get off to a hot start. You can't go punt, fumble. 10 plays, 46 yards, 2 punts, and a turnover. That was a huge, huge key to this game. We've seen just in the last couple weeks how great Green Bay can be when they get off to a hot start. Obviously, defense did them no favors either, giving up the touchdown on the opening drive. But defense gives up the touchdown. Green Bay starts punt, fumble. In a 3-point game that they lost, that's a huge piece of this. You need to see them start quicker. And this was not the day that they did. But 5 plays, 19 yards punt, 3 plays, 0 yards punt, 2 plays, 27 yards fumble. Then they put the 11-play, 70-yard touchdown drive together. Then they have the kneel down before halftime. Then they put another 5-play, 70-yard touchdown drive together. 3 plays, 16 yards touchdown following the interception. 3 plays, 7 yards punt, followed by the turnover on downs by Detroit, which led to a 4-play, 30-yard touchdown drive, and then a 9-play, 56-yard field goal drive to tie the game at the end. So punt, fumble, but then after that, touchdown, punt, touchdown, field goal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their last 6 drives ended in points, including 4 touchdowns and a field goal. 2 of those very much buoyed by a Keyshawn Nixon pick and a turnover on downs, but still a much better performance once they settled into the game. It did feel like the offense early on was tight, and it didn't really ever, I don't think, quite find their rhythm. They only had 2 drives in this entire game that were more than 5 plays. The breakdown drive by drive, 5 plays, 3 plays, 2 plays, 11 plays, 5 plays, 3 plays, 3 plays, 4 plays, 9 plays. So only 2 drives that were over 5 plays in it. And I've seen a lot of people say, like, why couldn't this offense get a little bit more, going? Why didn't Jaden Reed catch a pass in this one, so on and so forth? When you don't have very many plays and you only have 2 drives, and you go 1 for 5 on 3rd down, and Jordan Love only completes 12 passes, well, yeah, you're not going to have this super smooth offense. On a lot of their drives, again, 2 of them coming off the pick, coming off the turnover on downs, and then the other 71-yarder right after halftime was a huge Christian Watson play that set that one up, right? So it's kind of big plays and not easy points, but touchdowns off of turnovers. Those were sort of your way that you got back in this game, but they didn't really have those extended drives in this one. They didn't kind of get to wear Detroit down. They didn't get the ball, to be spread out to all of their playmakers just because they didn't have that many plays on offense. They had a total of 45 plays on offense, and one of those was a kneel down before halftime. So really 44 plays on offense. And that's 11 plays per quarter. That is very minimal. You're usually talking about 65 plays per game. So Green Bay really kind of missed out on about 21 snaps of offense in this game, in a large part due to not being able to convert on 3rd downs and just kind of put consistent drives together. Now, they put up 31 points. Two of those drives, again, I'll say partially due to the defense setting them up in great field position, but they still found a way to put up 31 points again. Hard to get too upset at the offense with that, but the start of the game, punt, fumble, was far less than ideal. Couple notes here about the offense. They settled in a little bit better later. I thought the offensive line going up against what was really like the JV Detroit Lions, the practice squad Detroit Lions defensive front, disappointing performance to say the least. I mean, really not being able to get Josh Jacobs going to any real extent, really not being able to get consistent pass protection for Jordan. Jordan had to take off scrambling a couple times, had some pressure. It took at least one. Well, Zadarius Smith had that sack on the opening drive. Just not good enough. That was a matchup that you felt like going into the game that you felt great about. Packers offensive line, really good at pass pro, showing signs as a run blocking line, going up against Detroit's 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th defensive linemen, right? And then Ali McNeil goes out early in this game too. They're like lone remain. I know Zadarius Smith was in it. He made that play early, didn't do much the rest of the game, right? That's very, very Zadarius Smith type of day. One huge play, and then just kind of, we're good from there. We got our big plan. But there should have been ample opportunities to take advantage of that defensive front for Detroit. And Green Bay didn't. And I thought that started up front. And I did think it was a pretty disappointing performance at first glance from the offensive line. And I think a huge reason why they weren't able to put up more points in this game, quite frankly. As I mentioned, Jordan Love started, I thought, rough. Looked a little bit, I don't want to say nervous, but just tight. The whole offense looked tight early in this one. I don't totally know why. It felt like there was a confidence going into this game. I don't know if like going down 7-0 rattled Green Bay right away. They take that shot play immediately or they wanted to take the shot play on the first play, ends up being a sack on that one. It just didn't set the tone early in this one. Love misses Tucker Kraft on a touchdown later. It didn't cost them. They still got a touchdown on that drive, but there were some misses early. And then once that they finally got that touchdown drive in the end of the first half, it felt like that settled them down and they were really able to kind of find their groove the rest of the day after that. But a little bit disjointed early and just felt like still lacking in rhythm overall on offense. Josh Jacobs, 18 for 66, in large part due to, I thought, some lackluster run blocking. Also, Detroit stacked the box. They were kind of basically daring Green Bay to take a few more of those shots down the field. They, connected on the big one to Watson, which gave them that big burst and boost to start the second half. But I don't know if it's such a double-edged sword because I wanted Green Bay to run the ball a lot. I didn't want them to continue to take those shots down the field, but Detroit was kind of daring them at times. They hit on Watson. They couldn't hit on some others. And credit Detroit for being super aggressive, super physical, and making things really a pain for Green Bay on offense. Really struggled to run the ball, had a lot of guys in the box, and were getting after the quarterback too. So good game by the Lions defense. They had a great scheme in place. Again, Green Bay still found a way to put up 31, but it was a weird 31 to some extent. Watson, 4 catches, 114 yards, a big day, but a huge fumble. Huge fumble. I saw his dad post on Twitter that it was the first fumble of his entire football career. I don't know if that means like high school, college pros, or if that means like even going back to Pee-wees. I don't know. But he says like his first fumble ever. Certainly his first as a Green Bay Packer, at least as far as I can remember as well. Not the game to do it in. You would have liked to have seen him hold on to that. You love the effort on the play. He's going to get some extra yardage, makes a guy miss and gets upfield. Need to be a little bit more tight on that thing. Got a little bit loose, got punched out. Huge fumble recovery for Detroit. But outside of that fumble, thought he had a really nice day. Dontavian Wicks, 4 catches, 49 yards. Thought we saw some 2023 Dontavian Wicks in this game. Thought we saw a little bit of a breakout. He did miss a block on Brian Branch on that play where Brian Branch completely blew up Josh Jacobs in the backfield. So we'll see how he kind of grades out in totality. But I thought as a receiver, felt a little bit more confident from Wicks in this game. Tucker Kraft, 3 catches, 41 yards and a touchdown and an unbelievable kip up as well. That was pretty sweet. I thought it was another, kind of vintage Tucker Kraft day. And that play from Jordan Love to Tucker Kraft over the middle, absolute laser from from Love to Kraft. And then also that play where Jordan Love avoided the pressure and hit Christian Watson down the field. I mean, some big time stuff from Jordan Love in this game. And the offense, like there were moments. Still would love to see a bit more consistency. You did really end of first half to the second half. I mean, 6 drives, 5 scores, 4 touchdowns. That's pretty darn good. But yeah, some big plays, some things that they still need to clean up. Obviously surprising that Jayden Reed didn't have a single catch or touch in this game. They did target him early. He drew the pass interference, right? And then he did have a drop later in the game. It was a tough throw from Jordan. It was definitely low, but one that I think Jayden Reed would probably tell you he should have caught. So they did try to get it to him early, but you would love to see, Jayden Reed get a little bit more involved. But again, when you only have 12 completions in the game, it's not going to lend itself to everyone getting fed the way that you would ultimately like. And Jayden Reed was one of the ones that did not benefit clearly from not having the ball quite as much in this game. Green Bay had 6.6 yards per play, which was much better than Detroit's 5.1. They ended with 45 plays, 298 yards, 199 passing, 99 rushing, went 4 or 5 in the red zone, had 1 turnover, were 1 of 5 on third down. And yeah, like I said, you would love for more players to be involved, a little bit more Jayden Reed. You probably would have liked to have got Josh Jacobs a couple more touches, maybe Brooks and Wilson. But when you only have 45 plays, 44, not including a kneel down, only 12 completions, you're just not going to get everyone fed. And that's what we saw. It wasn't quite as, it was mostly efficient because you scored 31 points on 44 plays. Like, that's pretty good. But I think from an overall maintaining the ball and, just spreading the ball around, converting on your third downs, very disjointed game from Green Bay. Lots to work on still there, especially along the offensive line coming off of this one. But you did still find a way to put up 31 points. All right, defensively, Green Bay's defense, their chart for the day, 11 plays, 70 yards, touchdown on the opening drive. You hated that, right? You did not want to see them go down and score that immediate touchdown. They had a 1st and 20 on that immediate, in that goal situation, right? Goal to go. 1st and 20, first and goal from the 20. Got to get off the field, guys. Got to get off the field. It's a golden opportunity to hold them to a field goal in that scenario. It's a 4-point swing right there. 1st and 20 from the 20, or 1st and goal from the 20. Got to get them off the field. So 11 plays, 70 yards touchdown, followed by 3 plays, 2 yards punt, 6 plays, 12 yards punt, 6 plays, 29 yards field goal. Like, they gave Green Bay's offense an opportunity to try to get back in that game. Green Bay's offense did them no favors in doing so. But after that touchdown, it was punt, and then even a 6-play, 29-yard field goal drive, which isn't the end of the world, right? But before half, they give up the 12-play, 70-yard touchdown drive to give them 17 points at half. You do start the second half with an interception, 2 plays, -4 yards, interception, and then 13 plays, 70 yards, touchdown, 4 plays, 8 yards, turnover on downs, which again got Green Bay back in the game. Huge turnover on downs there. Dan Campbell being ultra aggressive, not paying off in that scenario. Green Bay takes the lead, and what does Detroit do the rest of the way? 10 plays, 70 yards, touchdown to take the lead. Green Bay goes down and ties it. 11 plays, 53 yards, field goal. I thought it was those last 2 drives that really kind of sealed this game for Green Bay from a defensive standpoint, where I thought up until that point, right, you've allowed 24 points. You got a huge turnover that set up points for Green Bay. You got a huge turnover on downs that set up points for Green Bay. If they would have been able to get off the field on those 2 final drives, it would have been a phenomenal, I think, maybe not phenomenal, but it would have been a really good day for the Packers defense. Limit the lines to 24. Stop them when you need to at the end. Get 2 huge turnovers in the second half. And that would have been the reason they won the game. Instead, when Detroit needed it most, 10 plays, 70 yards, touchdown, 11 plays, 53 yards, field goal, and the game-sealing, game-winning field goal at the end from the Lions. So I thought that was really those final 2 drives were the game changer for the defense. That there were moments, and certainly the Nixon pick was great. Holding them on the turnover on downs, giving the offense great field position was great. There just wasn't enough of that. The Lions were 7 of 15 on third down, but 4 of 5 on fourth down. And it was those fourth down conversions that led to 2 different touchdown drives, the easier field goal at the end and taking all the time off the clock. And then they did have the 1 failed one, but man, ultra aggressive from Dan Campbell, as you would not expect anything less. I thought the 3rd and 4th down conversions on both sides were a huge difference in this game. Detroit ended with 76 total plays, 391 yards, 5.1 yards per play, 38 points, and 1 turnover. The weird thing about this game for the Packers defense is if I would have told you a lot of these stats, I think we probably would have felt pretty good about it. David Montgomery, 14 carries, 51 yards, 3.6 yard average. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries, 43 yards, 2.9 yard average. Sam Laporta, 5 catches, 54 yards, nothing major, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown, 5 catches, 43 yards. Green Bay was able to get an interception and a huge turnover on downs. Like, you look at a lot of that stuff, you kind of took away the run game. You took away Amon-Ra St. Brown in his big game. You took away Sam Laporta in any big game for him. Again, same thing with Montgomery and Gibbs, even out of the backfield. Like, you really did a pretty good job on a lot of those things. But it was the middle of the field that was open all day long. Tim Patrick, Jamison Williams, there was a variety of different weapons. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown got some, Laporta got some, Gibbs got some, Montgomery got some. Like, they all helped out. There's a lot that I would have looked at from a box score just if I didn't know the score and said, I think Green Bay's got a real chance at this one. And to be fair, they did. They just didn't pay it off at the end of the day. All right, so Montgomery again, 14 for 51 on a touchdown. Gibbs, 15-43, 2.9 yard average. Laporta, 5 for 54. St. Brown, 5 for 43. You got that interception. You felt good about everything. I thought the run defense as a whole, pretty impressive. Like, again, you allowed over 100 yards rushing, but I think what you feel really comfortable with is that you didn't allow them, any real big-time explosive plays, and you kind of held them in check. 34 carries, 111 yards, 3.3 yard average, and a touchdown with a long of 20. 2.9 yard average for Gibbs, 3.6 for Montgomery. Again, I think you feel very good overall about the run defense in this one. Linebackers in coverage were really, really rough. McDuffie especially, at least at first glance. I'll go back and watch Quay and McDuffie and Wilson, but man, they were attacking that middle of the field over and over and over and over again. You love the Keyshawn Nixon pick. You also had a big pass breakup on the first drive, but kind of your usual up and down from Keyshawn Nixon. Some big plays, but some big plays that he gave up in some key moments as well. And yeah, screen plays, Detroit screened them to death. Man, I knew they did. And then you go back and you watch the game on the rewatch and it's so many screens. And Green Bay just never had an answer for it. It felt like Ben Johnson was a step ahead of Jeff Hafley for the majority of the day. And then I think the big thing is I go back to that fourth quarter where game on the line, Green Bay's defense had some opportunities to get off the field and be the reason why Green Bay won or had a chance to win at the end. Jared Goff, 10 for 10 in the fourth quarter. 10 for 10. Clutch defense wasn't good enough. And that's been something that has been an issue for this team, kind of going back obviously to the Joe Barry era, but they need to be better on fourth quarters, games on the line, opportunities to get stops. That's where Green Bay has really not been good defensively, is in those sort of situations. This was a huge opportunity for them to potentially get a stop, get Green Bay the ball back, and they just couldn't do it. Detroit runs the entire clock down, kicks the game-winning field goal at the end, and you would have loved to have seen the defense come through in any of those final two drives. They didn't, and it's, again, a huge difference in this game. Special teams was mostly nondescript. Robert Rochelle had a holding penalty. Daniel Whalen was okay on the day, but this was not a special teams game. This was an offense and defense game. Lots to like from Green Bay, but a lot to clean up and a lot that they're going to have to get better on through the remainder of the season while they get ready for the postseason coming up in about a month's time. Dan Campbell, ballsy as ever. Here's what I will say about Dan Campbell. And I talked about this a little bit on the postgame show. You can't love him when it succeeds and hate him when it fails. Meaning these aggressive fourth down plays, right? You got to kind of pick. What do you want him to be? Do you want it to be ultra aggressive or do you want him to be conservative? I see all the time. I know Kyle Brandt went on a big rant about, and I love Kyle Brandt. He went on a big rant about the Bears, when they've had some of these opportunities, like the field goal against Green Bay, where instead of settling for a 40-something yard field goal, you go for the jugular. Now, this is not the same apples to apples of what Dan Campbell did here. Dan Campbell went for it because he wanted to bleed the clock out and not give Jordan Love any opportunity to have the ball back. By the way, for a Detroit team that has seen Aaron Rodgers connect on a Hail Mary with no time left, I can understand why. Here's what I will say about Campbell. Yes, there probably could be a little bit more discretion here and there. You know what you're getting. He's consistent with it. And when Dan Campbell went for fourth down, every single one, the one at the 30, the one to end the game, the ones in the red zone, every single time, I can tell you as a Packer fan, I would have wanted him to do the exact opposite. I would have preferred he kicked every field goal, that he punted it away, every single one of those. And especially even the last play, even though I knew like it was kind of probably the wrong decision to make in that scenario, even though I knew that, I wanted them to kick the field goal right then and there, not go for it on fourth down and let Green Bay get the ball back and take your chances with Jordan Love and company. I didn't want them to bleed out that clock. No way. So they were ballsy enough to do it. They did it. And just going back to Kyle Brandt, he's again mad about the Bears maybe not being more aggressive in those situations. And now you have a team like Detroit that they are aggressive in almost all these situations. Then I see, well, that's too aggressive. You live with it. And it has paid more dividends than not. Detroit has gotten a lot of ROI on being super aggressive and not being afraid to, do things that are unconventional. It's what makes Detroit, Detroit. It's what makes Dan Campbell, and it has worked out for them pretty darn well so far. As far as the officiating in this game, I know I haven't touched base on it too much. I know I opened with it. Yes, I would have liked to have seen a cleaner officiated game in general. Like, good football has clean officiating, period. As far as Green Bay winning or losing because of it, my ultimate answer here is I don't care. I don't care. If it was a playoff game, I would care more. If there was something massive on the line here, maybe I would have cared more. Green Bay, to me, did not lose this game directly due to the referees. So things could have gone a little different. That definitely would have helped them. That's for sure. But Green Bay had their opportunities to win this game regardless. And you can never put the game close enough where the referees can spin it one way or the other. And Green Bay had to rely on the refs being good because they were the team that was getting outplayed at times in this game. And unfortunately, a lot of calls went against them. And it's unfortunate that the offensive pass interference at the end on Keyshawn Nixon probably could have, I don't think he ever gets that call, but it could have gone that way, I guess. The pick play in the red zone, then later Detroit runs a pick on the next drive and it doesn't get called. And it was I would say a far more egregious pick, a more obvious pick. It was not a great game from the officials. No question about it. I just don't care. To me, I'm focused on the Packers and what they can do to get better because that's all that's going to matter the rest of the year. Inactives on the day were Jair Alexander, Romeo Doubs, Adrian Cooper, Jacob Monk, and Corey Ballantyne. Kalen King did get the call up. I did talk about that in the pregame show if you may have missed that, but it made all sense in the world, but as expected, did not get any time on defense. I don't know if I'm assuming he was on special teams for a couple of plays, but I have to go look at the snap counts on that. Injuries were definitely a factor in this one. Evan Williams left with a concussion. Javon Bullard left with an ankle injury, and he was in a walking boot and walking with crutches after the game. That is not a great sign for Javon Bullard. Sean Ryan went out for a little bit, but then did return. And then LVN also went out for a bit, but did return as well. Division race is dead. It's over. It's done with. They need to go undefeated and have the Lions lose their last 4 games and have Minnesota lose to Chicago. It's dead. It's over. It's done with. Green Bay will not win the division. They will be a wild card team. They're going to have to probably get at least one more win to kind of clinch that, but they'll get there. They'll get to the wild card, and now it's going to be up to them, as Matt LaFleur said, to earn their way back to Detroit, to get the opportunity to hopefully play them in the playoffs, and maybe the third time's a charm, and Green Bay can go out and eliminate them when it matters most in the postseason. We talked about the slow start. It's got to be better. The 4 losses that they have, this is Pro Football Talk, their 4 losses on the season are against teams with a combined 32-5 record. 2 against Detroit, 1 against Minnesota, 1 against Philly. Those are their 4 losses. Now listen, you're going to have to beat good teams. Green Bay has beat some okay to good teams, a lot of bad teams. When they've played the best of the best, Philly, Minnesota, Detroit twice, haven't lived up to it. 0-4 in those games. Now, those 4 total, the total loss in points in those 4 games combined is a total of 20 points. They lost by a total of 20 points in their 4 losses. That's not everything. It doesn't mean anything. It's not a huge morale boost or anything like that, but they're close losses so far this year. They're hanging right in there. Single digit loss to Detroit, single digit or 1 score game with Detroit, 1 score game with Philly, 1 score game with Minnesota. The earlier Detroit game ended up being a 10-point game, but still, I think very, very close. Green Bay's right there, but they have to overcome. They have to be better. And right now, they need that signature win. Maybe it'll be in Minnesota in 3 weeks from now, but in the meantime, keep growing, keep getting better, and set your identity a little bit more. They're going to need it the remainder of this season. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about here? Last 9 games, Packers are 0-2 versus Detroit, 7-0 against everyone else. So 0-2 against Detroit, 7-0 against everybody else. As far as the Matt LaFleur altercation before the game, it can't happen from an NFL standpoint. You can't let a fan get that close to the sideline and start causing chaos before the game. I don't really have much to say on it other than that. Glad that it didn't escalate anything above and beyond that. Love that the players had coaches back. Love that the coach was fired up about it. Just crappy that even had to happen. Don't think it really mattered much in the scheme of things, but you'd like to see, Detroit get that kind of cleaned up and not have any of that even remotely possibly happen in any sort of setting, right? But ultimately, mostly much ado about nothing. Packers have the Seahawks next on Sunday Night Football. Right now, just to kind of wrap things up here, Packers are a step below. There's a reason they're in that, next tier of teams as contenders from a betting odds standpoint. There's a reason that they were underdogs going into that game. There's a reason why the Lions are the favorites in the NFC, why they are the top of the NFC, top dog. They are one loss, number one seed right now, and Green Bay is a step below that. And we've seen that play out in a variety of different ways. Detroit's ahead of Green Bay right now. Just is what it is. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to be ahead of them in January. Green Bay can learn some lessons from this game, and that's what they're going to need to do. And what I'll kind of end by saying is, a lot of times with growth, there can be pain. Or maybe even better said, a lot of times with pain comes growth. Detroit's gone through this before. They've lost these tough games. They've experienced some of the things that Green Bay is experiencing now. They know how it feels, and they're better off for it, that they've experienced it. It's calloused them. It's made them better. It's made them more hungry. And now that's where Green Bay needs to get. If this is just who Green Bay is, they're probably going to just be a step below for a while. They have to find it within themselves to take that next step and find a way to get to another level, from coaches to players to everyone. They're going to have a 4-game stretch that they have to go on against tough teams if they want to win a Super Bowl. 3 games on the road in the NFC, and then a neutral game Super Bowl. If they want to win it all, it's going to take 4 epic performances against 4 very good teams, all in the playoffs. That's what they're going to have to do. So they need to grow from this loss. They need to mature as a team. I'm not saying they're immature. I'm saying, like, as you look at this young team, youngest team in football, they need to grow from this. They need to learn. They need to become a more mature overall team. That is where Detroit is, quite frankly, right now. And I think Detroit starting that, kind of building up their roster just a couple of years before Green Bay did, they're a little bit ahead of the curve of where Green Bay's at. Doesn't mean Green Bay can't win. There's 2 phenomenal football teams. I enjoyed the hell out of this game. I wish it would have went in Green Bay's favor. Now it's time for Green Bay to learn those lessons, to get better, to move forward, and to play their best football in January. They're going to be the 5th, the 6th, or the 7th seed. We'll see what that means come playoff time. We'll see if they can get 4 wins to end the season. We'll cover, of course, Packers, Seahawks all next week. We're going to have a great weekend of games coming up. We'll talk about it here on the podcast as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, give those 5-star reviews. Check out those Pack a Day Podcast YouTube memberships. Speaking of which, shout out to our Hall of Fame and All-Pro members, Most Hated Minnesotan, PJ Wayne, John Wild, Brandon Paletta, Jennifer Wright, Boom Handle, Donald Lee, Lori Lord, Baby QB, David McCluskey, Donald Decker, Alex Huang, Ronaldo Espinosa, Peter Ataka, SoCal Pack, Jay Zimmerman, B. Brown, Puerto Rican Packer, Dan Gassford, Step Keat, Love and Football, Dylan Pat Scott, and Bobby Santoro. You guys are the best. I know it's a tough one. I know you wanted to see him come away with the win. I know I did too. It's a fun game of football. Green Bay's going to have to get better. Detroit's the better team right now, but Green Bay will work on it. They'll get better. And I'm excited to see these 2 match up hopefully again in the divisional round of the playoffs. I will see you guys right back here tomorrow. Be safe. Have a great weekend. And until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.